Hello, this is Abby.
Dear Abbey, this is gonna be a long one.
Oh boy.
Dear Abbey, how do you tell the difference between a new exciting crush and a rebound?
Does it matter?
Dear Abbey.
Dear Abbey.
Dear Abbey.
Welcome to our little corner of the internet. This is the Dear Abbey podcast. I hope you stay and hang out with us. See you in a sec. Hi everybody, welcome back to another episode of Dear Abbey. I am your host. My name is Abby. Welcome back. I did a foolish thing and watched the part of, oh my gosh, what is that movie? Up. The movie Up with the balloons and the house and the floating and the dog and the little boy with the little scout thing. I made the mistake of watching I don't know if it's in the end. I think it's near the end of the movie. It's like the end before. Anyways, he finds the adventure book where his late wife had the adventure book that she wanted to go on all these adventures. It was the beginning of the book and he opens it and it's like, here are all my adventures, or something about, here are all the adventures I'm going to go on in my life. He takes a second assuming that there's nothing past that page because I didn't have the money or the means to go do all the adventures that she wanted, like traveling and, all these crazy things. And he apologizes almost out loud to his late wife. And as he's about to close the book, the next page slightly is exposed and he can see a picture. And so he opens up that page thinking, okay, what's on this page? We didn't go on all the adventures that she wanted. And it's just a picture of him and her, just like a normal day. And I think it was like his birthday and he was blowing out a birthday candle, and it just has all of these little simple pictures of them in their house or having a picnic at the park or something like that. And that's what she had on her adventure book. And it made me sob. So I am now, my eyes are dry and the lights are really bright and it's burning my eyes as I talk. I realize getting older, there's a lot of movies that I need to rewatch, because a lot of movies when I watched as a kid just will hit differently as an adult. Because I remember watching that when I was young and I was like, oh, this is like sweet, but I didn't realize how sweet it was. Things just mean differently when you get older. And then I'm sure when I'm even older, it'll mean something even more. It's been kind of a crazy couple of days because it was Keaton's birthday, my husband's birthday this weekend. It's just always a little bit stressful when it's somebody's birthday, and I'm excited to throw them everything and celebrate them, but I really want him to have a good birthday, obviously. It was his first birthday of us being married, so being like the wife and it's your husband's birthday feels like a lot more pressure. Not that he would even care, because he doesn't care about that stuff. And all he wanted to do on his birthday was surf by himself, and go to the movies, because those are his favorite things to do. And that's what he did. I didn't do either of those with him. And he was happy about that because he just likes to do that stuff alone. He doesn't need me. But it was perfect. But not that he invited me to both, okay, to be clear. But we both like our alone time, and we both like doing things alone, because if he's not gonna super enjoy something, I'd actually rather just go alone to that, respectfully. And he feels the same way, because I don't want any Debbie Downers when I'm doing something or someone who's not enjoying it. Like, for example, I wanted to go to Comic-Con, and I was like, I don't think he's going to have fun at Comic-Con because he doesn't care about this stuff as much as I do. So it would obviously be fun, but also it's like, I kind of just want to go with people who would also be girling or whatever over some of the stuff. But we do stuff together, okay? But he likes outdoor kind of high intensity sports like snowboarding, surfing, diving, free diving, climbing, bouldering, which is climbing on rocks without a rope. He does that outside. Crazy stuff. And I will dip my toes into that stuff, but I just don't enjoy it. I would rather be home reading something or drawing something or something. We balance each other out. Anyways, so half of the weekend was spent a little bit stressed, making sure everything was prepared and everything was perfect. It just consumes a lot of my mental energy. What was incredibly stressful was he wanted Okay, so he wanted like a surfboard. He's been wanting a new surfboard, like a specific thing. I don't know. There's like different boards for different weathers, different weather vibes. So he wanted a specific board, and I was already thinking of giving him a gift. That was not a surfboard. It was something else, but then he was like, "That's what I want for my birthday," and I kind of have already kind of bought it. How about you to do something for my birthday present? You can design the board. I was like, okay. Can you send me your inspo so that way I know you're going to actually like it if we're spending money on it? Like, that's kind of stressful, but okay, I will lock in. I will get all of my creativity together and I will come up with something that you will like on your board. So then he sends me 10 photos, 10 different photos. Every single one of them was a different color, different vibe. Some of them are vintage, some of them are printed, like painted, different shapes. Some of them had graphics on it. Some of them were blue, some of them were red, some of them were all white with different designs. I'm like, so he sends me on those 10 images, probably 8 different colors and 8 different designs. I was stumped, but knowing him and knowing his vibe, and I know what he thinks is cool, I was like, okay, I think I'm going to get this red color that was in one of the photos, but make it a little bit of a different tone because I think he'll like this. And so I worked with the guy that he had already kind of bought like the frame of the board from, and worked with him on painting and what we can and can't do with the design that I had. So I sent him the design. We went back and forth. I was stressed because I don't know anything about surfboards, but he was like talking to me about surfboard stuff, and I'm like, sure, like I trust you, like whatever you think will look good, this is what I think, but like you take it and run with it. So I was so stressed because I did something that wasn't on any of the pictures. I just knew that he would like this because it's kind of a similar vibe to one of the pictures, and I just know his vibe. He likes like cool, darker themed, not like scary dark, but just like deep colors. He likes certain tones, and we finalized the board. But unfortunately, it wasn't done in time for his actual birthday. But we still had a picture of the mock-up and a video of how it looks so far. And it's almost done. I think they're just doing the last minute touches, and then it has to dry or something for a couple of days. So unfortunately, we didn't get it in time for his birthday. But I was able to show him the picture, and he loved it. And he was like, this is almost exactly what I would have wanted. Whether or not he's being just nice and he doesn't like it, I will never know. But he seems to have been impressed and really liked the design. Basically, it was like a deep red, like cherry board with a darker red, almost black, but not that dark, outlining on the outside of the board. And then that deeper red, kind of almost like burn paint marks, or like something was kind of burned, but like in a cool way. Anyways, and the little gold logo thing of this guy's brand. But anyways, so it was stressful right up until the end, and then he liked the board, and everything was worth it. Okay, I wanted to share a dub and L, and then we'll get into this week's episode topic, which is fighting mental illness with the small little things every day. And everything about that, some of the little things that I'm talking about, and how sometimes when you are battling a mental illness or when you're suffering with something like that, sometimes feels insurmountable. It feels almost impossible to overcome, especially if it's something like OCD and every thought is an intrusive thought and every other thought is a reassurance thought to get back at that intrusive thought or to neutralize. And if it feels like all day, every day, you're suffering with this and it's really hard to stop, or even if you're still in recovery and you're doing a lot better, but you still feel like there's room to grow, it's sometimes easier to focus on the small baby steps, on the small changes every day to make those eventual big changes in your life and with your mental health. So that's what we're talking about. But my dub for this week was definitely that the design turned out well, and I was able to do most of a single pull-up by myself. And my back actually felt like I felt stronger because I've been trying to do pull-ups for a long time now, and my arms are so weak. I never trained that way. I never really trained my arms, to be honest. I just did swim, but that's not going to give me the strength that's needed for a pull-up. It just never was a cohesive. They didn't help each other out kind of a thing. But I've been doing calisthenics and trying to do a pull-up, and I finally was able to actually like get halfway up at least, which is more than I've ever been able to do. Well, it was more like 3/4. It's just the last little bit that's hard for me because I'm spent by the time I'm 3/4 of the way there. But that was a big dub because I've put in a good amount of work, but there's definitely room to grow in terms of how I train. I can definitely push myself a little bit more now that it's getting comfortable, like the way that I'm training. I want to find ways to make it more challenging for myself because I feel better when it's like really challenging after the workout. I feel better about myself. That's my Deb. And then also that Keaton liked the birthday present board that I spent time on. And then the L is probably the fact that I wanted to stretch more and do yoga and kind of get back into a flow with that, but I've just not done it. And I'll do small little things, but it's the kind of discipline with that stuff that I just haven't had. Like I'll be on my phone and I'm like, oh, I really need to stretch, but I just don't feel like stretching, and then I wouldn't stretch, and then I don't feel good as I could have been feeling if I was taking better care of, moving my body. So that never feels good. Okay, so the meat of today's episode is the small little things that will help us with our mental health, keeping it in check if you're doing pretty good, or when it's really bad and it's really hard to, and you're having a hard time visualizing ever getting better. This is one thing that there are a lot of small things that can help make it start to feel more manageable. And the reason I wanted to talk about this is because we watched recently all the Lord of the Rings extended versions, and then we watched The Hobbit. And a lot of people don't like the Hobbit movies. They're not the same. They feel totally different than the Lord of the Rings. Like it feels like a different entire world. There's some similarities, but it's just like it's just way different. Like a lot of CGI in The Hobbit was weird because I'm used to Lord of the Rings, which was like almost none. And they just had a lot of costume stuff. But I've done a lot of research on that, and they actually had like such a small amount of time, and they did not have the same resources. So they couldn't make all of the costumes like for all the orcs and stuff as they used to. And so they had to CGI a lot of the stuff. And it unfortunately did kind of affect the way that movie felt, but I still really liked a lot of parts of The Hobbit, and I like those movies. I just can't think of them as like, they're not going to be the same as Lord of the Rings. But I do love a good love story. I used to not like I used to not like love romance stuff in movies or shows because I would just kind of be like, ugh, yeah, right. And I also think it was hard because I never really felt like I was in that type of a love or felt that type of love before. So when I'd watch it, I'd be like, this is so fake. And now that I am in love and I'm married, I feel like my heart has softened to it, and I enjoy it now more because I just know that love does actually exist. It's not as perfect as in the movies, but it's still like, just romance is nice. Romance is nice, Anyways, but I get so many quotes and random stuff from Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit on my page, like on my Instagram. Anytime I open it, I follow a bunch of people too that post about it. So I saw this quote, and it was similar, and it reminded me of the topic of today's episode. So I wanted to read the quote because it's one of my favorites, and it's actually not in the book; it's just in the movies. And Gandalf says this. I think he's talking to the Lady Galadriel, or I don't remember. Some believe it is only great power that can hold evil in check, but that is not what I have found. It is the small everyday deeds of ordinary folk that keep the darkness at bay, small acts of kindness and love. Are we fighting a great evil? Depends how bad your mental health feels, honestly. It's not, obviously, we're not fighting orcs, though that would be kind of cool and scary. Sometimes we're just fighting our mental health. So obviously we're not fighting orcs. There's no Sauron. He's not real, but I do believe that there are bad things out there, obviously. However, I kind of just thought about that in the perspective of when you're struggling with your mental health, that sometimes it can be like this big one moment and everything changed, or we got to wait till something big happens and then we can change, or then something will change. Or we just have to do one big exposure and then all of a sudden our OCD will start to melt away, or we can get stuck on thinking that it's just going to be one big event or maybe two big events and then everything will be fixed. When he says it's just the small everyday things that keep the evil at bay, in terms of OCD, it's like the small little things that keeps your OCD at bay or your depression at bay or whatever you struggle with, because there are so many things that you think every day. There are so many things that you do every single day. There are so many moments every single day that you have to practice something new, that you have to speak a little bit more gently to yourself, that you can push yourself out of your comfort zone. There's a lot of moments that you can have every day that can keep your mental health at bay, as well as foods that you can eat that are good for you. But it's just the small little things. So I wanted to talk about a couple of those small little things because I have found that with my journey of helping my mental state become a lot more positive or just feel better, it's been a lot of those small daily things that I've switched or that I try to switch that really help. One thing about me is I take my mental health very seriously now because I know how dark and how scary it can get if I'm not being careful. I am very aware of how I treat my brain and also what I consume and also what I tell myself and what I let slip past my radar of, okay, is this going to be helpful or hurtful to my mental health? I take it very seriously and I try more and more to take responsibility for it. Not that if it's bad that I'm going to punish myself and I could have done more and all of these things, because sometimes you can't control when it's bad. Obviously, we know that. It can be totally random or it can just be a drop in, I don't know, some hormonal thing that isn't really in our control fully. And even if we tried our best, we still deserve to be compassionate to ourselves. So even if we do eat a bunch of junk or something and then we feel bad a couple of days later, it's not going to be helpful to be mean to ourselves. It should be helpful to be like, I do feel really bad right now, so let me just feel this and then I want to act differently so I don't feel maybe as bad, or that even when I do that, I know that I did everything that I could to feel better and then I can be more at peace maybe or something. One of those small things that make a big difference is the way that you treat or see other people, I guess. And let me explain this. So this doesn't sound like it would be super tied to your mental health, but for me, it actually has been really tied to it. And I talked about comparison, I think last week or the week before, but I'm not talking comparing. I'm more talking like judgment, like putting judgment on people. Even if it's something kind of small, but like labeling them as something or judging them. Sometimes it's like almost unintentional. It's almost like a natural thing that happens. I think to most of us can be pretty judgmental. And I used to not be as aware of how judgmental I can be. But when I became more aware, I realized that when I was super critical of other people, even internally, like I don't think I would ever say anything because I think that I'm wrong probably a lot. But even when I'm just hyper focused on what other people are doing and judging and being critical, it's like 100% of that energy gets pushed back onto me. And so when I would make a mistake or when I would feel a little bit less than, it would triple the amount of shame or guilt or just shame I would feel based on, because I'm putting all this pressure on other people, which in turn is going to put that pressure on me. And it's not like a good responsibility pressure or a helpful, you can do good things. So once I started to notice those little daily habits of focusing too much on what other people are doing wrong, because it was making me focus on what I was doing wrong all the time and not in a productive way. Then once I noticed that and I started to detangle myself from that, like from those beliefs, and or that even that I have like that I understand people without even asking things, or that I would know something about them somehow without even knowing them or asking them about it. That really helped me feel better about myself, because then I wasn't so hypercritical just in general overall, but also it kind of gave me more love for people because I was a lot more open-hearted and open-minded to other people's life experience. I just overall, it like cleared up space in my heart and in my head. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that really helped that helped my mental state little by little, because it was less about this really rigid black and white way of thinking about myself and other people. Another small little thing that we can keep in check to help with our mental health is small exposures. So for OCD, people do exposure and response prevention. Some people can do this for anxiety as well, or phobias, but I would say that should be done with like a professional. But when you're doing OCD recovery, you do a lot of exposures. And at first, when I started, I wanted to just do the big ones, but we started small, which is what you're supposed to do. Like, you don't start with what would trigger you to a 10, a max of like, it takes you weeks to get back to homeostasis because you're so triggered and so anxious and you don't have the tools yet, or the tolerance to sit with all of that discomfort and distress and stuff. You have to slowly build a tolerance to be able to handle some of the sensations, the feelings, the triggers, the thoughts, the images. Like, you kind of build a tolerance. You're not desensitizing, which is what I thought it was, but I learned there is a difference in that. It's more so you're able to tolerate it and you can be uncomfortable, but you know that it's goes up and then it goes back down. And that's usually just what happens when you have anxious feelings. They go up and then they eventually come back down. But once I started doing small exposures and opened my mind to maybe this will actually help me, it started to actually help me. And I started to at least have more time in between when I was doing compulsions, or when I was ruminating or reassuring or praying or doing something constantly to like get the anxiety to go away. I realized that with those small exposures, it was helping me gain that tolerance to then be able to handle the bigger ones, or that the bigger ones just didn't even feel as big. Sometimes you'll do bigger exposures and those are helpful, but I think most of the time for me, it was kind of the smaller ones that started to really help me improve and get to a better tolerance, of the discomfort. Another step was to pick just one like compulsion or one weakness that you might have, or if you have depression, one kind of bad habit that's definitely not helping the depression get any better, whether that's a mindset or whether that's, not trying to get good nutrients, not going to therapy, not taking maybe medication that was prescribed that you feel like maybe will be good for you, or, any not ever getting out of bed, because I know it's hard when you're depressed. Like, I know it's so hard and it feels like nobody understands when you're depressed, and it is really hard, but we got to get out of bed when we're depressed. We got to brush our teeth. We got to take that shower, even if it feels so heavy and exhausting and like painful sometimes to just shower when you're depressed. But we got to take those little steps, and that will eventually help us, and we'll start to be able to do that stuff a little bit easier, a little bit lighter. It can feel very intimidating to start a recovery journey or start changing your life with just trying to fix everything at once. So for me, I kind of picked one compulsion that was like, okay, some of them feel a little bit murky. Like, some things I'm like, I think this is a compulsion. I'm not totally sure. Like, I feel like a lot of people get to that point when they have OCD and they're in recovery. They're like, wait, is this a compulsion? Usually the answer is probably yes, but I picked really obvious ones that like, this is obviously an OCD compulsion. Like, I am doing something so obviously to not have to feel this, think this, try to prevent this hypothetical thing from happening. And so I'm going to pick that one thing and work on that only. And I'm not really going to worry about everything else right now. I'm just going to pick this one thing and then slowly get better at not doing that when I feel distressed. And I think that also really helps because it gives clarity, and you do start to understand a little bit more because you're not taking everything on all at once. You're doing something small. And I think that also gives you a practice on patience. Patience is a huge thing when recovering from anything. Patience is so powerful, especially in recovery. There is like a certain peace or a certain understanding that kind of flows over you when you are practicing being patient, like truly patient, not just like, okay, I'm going to tolerate this and roll my eyes, like when you're actually like, okay, I'm going to be intentionally really patient with myself. This is really hard for me. This is really hard to not do this compulsion. This is really hard not to think about this. This is really hard not to ask somebody for reassurance. Yeah, patience and self-compassion, I think, are so intertwined, especially obviously when you're practicing patience with yourself. That can be so hard for some people. Sometimes it's easy for people, and what's hard for them is practicing patience with other people. However, I personally have found that when I'm practicing being patient with myself, like truly, not just saying it because it's like a good thing to say, but when I'm taking a second and practicing, when I'm taking a second and acknowledging how hard something is for me, and I'm still doing it, and it might take me a while to understand or to get this, and that's okay. Anyways, there's just a lot of good things that come from being patient with your recovery. And another one of those is just it's more encouraging because you're not thinking in black and white of either I'm going to recover, I'm not, either I'm good or bad or something. You're able to think a little bit more realistically. And along the same lines of me taking my mental health very seriously now, and I'm hoping it's not becoming compulsive, which I'm thinking about this now. I'm like, wait, hopefully this isn't bad. But when I have really negative thoughts about myself, and when my mind starts to go down a certain path of just kind of self-loathing or being really negative towards something or just really ungrateful or it's not helping me, I make sure to gently refocus. For example, yesterday when I was going to sleep, I was like, I really I might not go to the gym in the morning because I'm already so tired and I don't want to wake up early. What I mean by I don't mess around now is like when I was really depressed, I did not work out for a long time. And my body really felt that. And I barely moved my body. It got so bad at some point that I was barely eating food. Like I couldn't keep food down because I was so, I don't know. It's like my body was almost protesting staying alive in a way. And it was like, I could not keep food down. That was horrible. That was not fun. And that was a horrible time for me. So I don't mess around with that stuff anymore. And I'm like, okay, no, Abby, you have a beautiful body that you can run, you can jump, you can climb, you can do so many things with it. If you wake up in the morning, you actually don't feel good and you feel like you're really listening to your body and it's like, we don't need to do this today. Let's rest. That's what we need more. Fine. But right now we're going to change that mindset. And instead of being like, oh, I don't want to go to the gym in the morning. That's so annoying and blah, blah, blah. I was like, I want to have a better experience and I want to have a good workout in the morning and feel good about myself and have my body feel better. So that way my mind feels better. So I didn't just go to sleep thinking, okay, I'm probably not going to go. I was like, you're going to wake up in the morning and you're going to go. And I kind of lied to myself a little bit. Obviously, at first when I said that, it's not like I was like, oh, I immediately feel like going now. But I started to really believe what I was saying eventually. In the morning, when I went, I was on my way and I actually felt like excited to go move my body. And I think that has a lot to do with the fact that I like the workouts that I'm doing now. I have a purpose in going to the gym. It's not just to go. It's kind of like I have a purpose in doing this and staying consistent and taking care of my body. So that definitely helps. But I don't just let myself go down these paths and stay there for long. I try to gently redirect my way of thinking, and it has really helped those small day-to-day thought patterns be slowly changed over time, which dramatically affects the way that I am living my life. However, with that, I would say a warning to myself is when you do any type of like monitoring, I think sometimes it can go too far where you're almost like trying to change every thought, which I'm trying to make sure I'm not neutralizing thoughts or trying to be toxically positive to myself. So I think that's always something to remind myself of as well. When you focus on the small steps, you're not waiting as much for everything to change. There is a power in waiting. I do feel like there is something special about patiently waiting for something that you want. However, when it comes to struggling really badly with your mental health, I don't think that's a part of your life that you want to keep having that escalate and keep waiting. You want to try to take that action. But if you are trying to take all those actions and something is still very much painful and you're suffering and it's not working, one, speak to a professional, get professional help, and B, be so patient and kind to yourself. It's always such a weird line because even when I feel like I'm being so gentle and compassionate to myself, I always end up realizing that I'm being pretty hard on myself. Okay, as always, I hope any of that made sense or was helpful in any way. That quote also, just not even about mental health, I think just in general, don't ever listen to the cynical part of your brain, or just don't ever think that when you do a small act of kindness or a small act of charity or love or a simple little favor for somebody, that it doesn't matter. Don't ever think that a small favor, a small act of kindness doesn't matter. There is a delicacy in the small things. And people know that, and people are aware that when you do something small, a small smile, a small favor, it can have a really big effect on somebody. And it can also just help you stay more in love with the world and stay more in love with people because you're finding beauty in it. Sometimes we don't want to show or do any of these small acts of kindness or love because we don't want to be rejected. And we think, well, what if we reach out, or what if we say something or compliment and they take it the wrong way, and or they just don't even care and they like are annoyed that we're trying to be nice or something. Honestly, that's kind of just on them for thinking so cynically about everybody and about the world. And that's not on you to change. So don't let other people dictate and make you feel like the small things that you do don't matter, because they do. Okay, let's do a Dear Abby, and then we're going to end today's episode. The Dear Abby today is actually a DM, and I cannot find it for the life of me. I think I might have deleted it. And she was asking how I posted something about rumination, which is just thought loops over and over and over again, and trying to figure something out, get to a conclusion until it finally clicks. That's basically what rumination is. I'm not a therapist, but to remind everybody, I'm not a therapist. I'm not a professional. There could be a different definition that's better. Someone replied to that story, and they were asking if I could share my thoughts on how you can stop rumination in the middle of it because it can feel so hard. That is a great question. I know I've done episodes on that, but I think specifically just like if it's already going, how can you stop it? Because it feels so automatic. And I would say that is very relatable. First of all, I think a lot of us that struggle with OCD struggle with rumination. And a lot of what I struggled with was pure OCD. So a lot of it is just in my mind. Like, you'll never see me. I don't do tapping. I don't do, touching or something like that. So a lot of it was rumination for me. Something I found helpful was grounding techniques. So let's say I watch a movie. This is a common one. Or I listen to a song and there's some line that's kind of disturbing, kind of gross, makes my mind like feel gross, and I kind of cringe and I'm like disgusted or something. And that triggers sometimes, and that to me will trigger like this thought of like, why do I feel like this? What does that mean? What is that say about me? Should I be feeling this? Am I not supposed to be feeling this? And then I'll start to be thinking and asking myself all these questions and then feeling and checking. But then I'm thinking of a solution to this problem that doesn't really exist. Like, I don't even know what the problem is most of the time. I'm just trying to fix it. Just whatever it is, I'm just trying to fix it. Hey, I'm trying to fix that too. Like, I don't even know what I'm trying to fix. My mind starts to race. Like, did I like that? Did I not like that? Why do I feel like this? Like, and goes into this whole rumination process of trying to figure something out about myself, about life. So let's say I'm on like the 10th loop or the 10th thought, and it feels like I need to figure this out now. I'm now aware of when something feels extremely urgent. And now I know that if it feels like I need to solve it immediately, it's probably OCD, and I probably should take a second and focus on something else. And it'll be still here. It's going to be so loud still. Like, it's not like when you're going to re-engage, it's going to just slowly go away. For me, it's not like that. A lot of the time, it's like I try to shift my focus and it's like yelling at me. It's like putting everything in between. There's a part in your brain that thinks that's like logical thinking. Then when I'm trying to solve something or I'm trying to work and I'm trying to focus, it like blocks that part of my brain sometimes. So it's incredibly hard to stop ruminating once you've kind of started. It's really hard to break that. So I want to acknowledge like how it is actually so hard sometimes to break, to stop that loop, especially if it's actually a loop that you've done for years and years and years. It's really engraved into your brain. But I don't want to say that to discourage anybody, but I think to validate and so you can understand yourself a little bit more, it's very hard to change thinking patterns that have been engraved for a long time. And just like the understanding that, okay, if I get this feeling or if I have this weird trigger, then I'm going to ruminate because that's what I know to do. And I feel like I've solved stuff before, but like, have you? But sometimes it feels like you have. So that's like the only option you have. So be aware if it's super urgent. I think just to get an understanding of where you're ruminating. I like to sometimes close my eyes because it helps me focus inward more. And for me, that's what's helpful, is to ask myself, what am I scared of in this moment? Like, what am I running away from with my thinking, my logical thinking? What am I trying to avoid? What feeling am I trying to avoid? And sometimes stopping in the middle of rumination feels like it's almost like you're running on a train track and the train is coming behind you. You can hear that there's a train behind you. You've never seen it. You've never turned around. You don't really have time. It doesn't feel like you have time to turn around and look at the train, but you feel like there's something there and you can hear it. And so you're running and you're running and you're running. And then you just have this moment of like, I'm going to turn around and I'm going to face this train. And then you turn around, you face the train, and the train was a mirage. However, sometimes it still might feel like you get hit by something a little bit because that's just another spike of the anxiety or the distress. But that's what stopping rumination can feel like, and that's why it can be so hard, is because it's never fun to turn around and face a moving train that you feel like is about to hit you. That's how it feels, though, is you're kind of avoiding something or a feeling or a sensation that's uncomfortable or a thought that's uncomfortable. And so you don't want to turn around and face it because you're scared of what would happen once you face it, like what's going to be on the other side of that. And so we just keep running and running and running, but we never really turn around and face it. That analogy helps me, or something you can even have be like a little monster that's chasing you that you turn around and eventually face. It's a very specific sensation of trying to stop rumination. I would say be extremely patient with yourself when you are trying to slowly bring down at least the rumination. Also, I think when I say stop, it's going to be very hard to just be like, I'm not going to think about this anymore and then move on. That's not, at least for me, that's never worked. It's more like, okay, I'm going to close my eyes. Sometimes I'll hold my chest or my stomach or wherever I feel like the energy is like rising. I don't know if that makes sense. I'll hold it and then I just kind of listen. I don't know exactly what I'm listening for sometimes. I just like to just be quiet. And I'll still have those like alarm, but then I don't click into it. That's probably my last thing that I'll say on rumination that was really, really helpful that I think I saw in a YouTube video that someone said, is to do not click on the thoughts. You have these like BuzzFeed clickbaity thoughts that pop up in your head and they feel so important and they feel so real. And so you want to click on it because you're like, well, I want to figure this out. I'm pretty smart. I think I could figure this out, but then it just takes you down this path that you never get that satisfying answer for, because a lot of these things don't have an answer, and that's uncomfortable in and of itself. So just try not to click into the thought. And if you already clicked into the thought, then click out of the window. And then if more of those scary ads keep popping up, just let them all pop up until they're done all popping up. The freaking bug has been bugging. It's done with the pop-ups. Everything's calmed down. And then you just slowly start to click X on all of them until it's cleared. And then you just wait till the next bug gets on your computer. But yeah, so that's how you can maybe help with your rumination. But also, again, I'm not a professional. So if you are really struggling with rumination and you're having a tough time by yourself, I would definitely speak to a professional and see if they're able to help. Okay, well, you guys, that's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening, as always, to my podcast. If you guys want to hear me talk about something specific, you can always DM me or comment on my YouTube videos, or you can reach out to me wherever. You can text the number in the description below, as well as I need Dear Abby's always. So you can message or call the number in the description and leave a voicemail, or just text and ask a question, whatever you want. If you want to support the podcast, you can leave a rating and a review on Apple and Spotify, as well as like, comment, subscribe on YouTube. And if you want to go the extra mile, you can always post on your story that you're listening to this week's episode. And I always appreciate that, because I do get people who listen from that and who enjoy it. So if you know someone that you think might enjoy topics of mental health, then you can send them this podcast. Okay, thank you for listening. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. Take yourself out, do some fun stuff. Okay, love you guys. Bye.
우회전 taking a ride to Todayyy 눈치 보면서 들어가야 할 때 찾아 나머진 바빠 개설레임 바꾸는 사람들 시간만 지나